Coming to you from across the multiverse, this is the Marvel Infinity Rewatch Podcast. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Marvel Infinity Rewatch Podcast, where we are rewatching the most successful franchise in movie history from the very beginning. This week, we're like watching this movie with this dude that gets like really, really small, and he hangs out with ants and stuff, which is crazy for real because I really don't like ants, and they bite and stuff. But anyway, it's called Ant-Man, and joining me on this film is fellow YouTuber and Blurred Corey Roy of the Geek Spot TV. All right, Corey, how you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back. And I am glad to talk about this film. I mean, Ant-Man, it holds a special place in my heart, yo. It holds a special place in my heart because it actually was the first DVD that I bought of the MCU.
Oh, wow. That feels
Yeah.
very, very topical. You said you bought a DVD, so that, this was a while ago. But
Yeah.
so let's dive into this. But before we do start this podcast, you know what to do. Get down there and hit like on this video. So let's go. Ant-Man, the final movie of Phase 2 of the MCU. It wasn't even called Phase 2 originally, but this is by the time they had actually started talking about phases. It was released in 2015, based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, but not the ones you would expect. Hank Pym was the original Ant-Man, but this was about Scott Lang and Hank Pym coming in, I guess, for the assist. It's produced by Marvel Studios and the Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, and it's a 12th film in the MCU, directed by Peyton Reed, who you may have known as a director of Bring It On, among other things. A screenplay by the writing teams of Edgar Wright, who was the original director before exiting due to creative differences, Joe Cornish, and Adam McKay and Paul Rudd. So yeah, they're starting to actually let the actors get in on working on the story. Surprise. Stars Paul Rudd as Scott Lang / Ant-Man, alongside Evangeline Lilly, Corey Stoll, Bobby Cannavale, Michael Pena, Tip T.I. Harris, Anthony Mackie, Wood Harris, Judy Greer, Abby Ryder Fortson, David Dastmalchian, and Michael Douglas, most importantly, as the Hank Pym. So, Corey, my friend, there's a lot of people in this movie. I'm surprised every time I see that. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people in this movie. So, what was this all about?
This is one of those movies. I like the fact that it takes place between Avengers Endgame. I'm sorry, Avengers Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War. And they make sure it fits perfectly within those two. Because there's things that happened in this movie that lead into Civil War that's like very important. But look, you pretty much said everything about this movie. This movie, it might not be what is considered like the biggest movie of the MCU, but to me, it feels like it's one of the most important movies of the MCU, especially this Infinity Saga. Scott Lang, he's a cat burglar. He's a cat burglar. He starts off the movie. He's getting out of jail on probation. He's trying to do the right thing with getting his daughter and everything, and he winds up getting into this situation where he winds up stealing a suit that he winds up finding out that shrinks down, and as soon as he finds that out, that's when you get his mentor or future mentor that will eventually be his mentor, Hank Pym, kind of grabbing him and saying, look, man, I need you to find your inner guy because I need you to be the new Ant-Man. And that kind of where the story kind of sets off there. And it goes on this kind of high stakes heist to save the world.
Right. Yeah, and you said it was a big deal, and I was like, it's also a small deal. This is a movie that I think is just one of those things we always ask for. Why is everything got to be about the world ending? Can't it just be about something smaller? And ironically, that does happen in a movie about a guy that gets smaller. So,
that's one of the reasons why I like this film.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place considering all of what was going on before this, especially because Avengers: Age of Ultron had happened by this point, which was a huge movie.
Yeah.
So I want to ask about what's the good, what's the bad, and what's the weird about this movie. What did you think was good about Ant-Man?
Right out the gate, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang is fantastic in this, but you got to also lean on Mike Douglas as Hank Pym. But this movie rests on Paul Rudd's shoulders, and I think he does a fantastic job doing what he needs to do to be the new Ant-Man. Evangeline Lilly, I think that was a great, at least I thought that was a great casting. I really like Corey Stoll as Yellow Jacket. I think he's good. But the to me, what I really thought the good of this movie was the effects going into the microspace
Yeah.
and seeing things from the perspective of being tiny. And I just thought Marvel did a fantastic job highlighting that, especially when we see things from different perspective. I thought the effects of that was fantastic. Oh, and I can't forget that damn Michael Pena. He is the unsung hero in this movie. Michael Pena is the
I
gem
love
of
it.
this movie, straight up.
um, I like all of those things you said. You said the CG. Let me just say that in retrospect, first of all, the third movie in this series gets a lot of shit for its CG, and now that I look at Ant-Man again, I don't understand it because it's very similar. And in fact, you can kind of tell that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania took a lot of cues from the art direction of the first movie. When they shrink down, they're not trying to be hyper realistic. It looks video gamey, but it's meant to be like that because the quantum realm is meant to be different. Small scales are meant to look different. So they kind of hype up the hyper, the kind of video gamey aspect of it. And it
Mhm.
looks interesting and cool versus the more realistic approach that they look at the ants. The ants look real. He looks like a little video game character, and that's meant to
Yeah.
sort of draw attention to the fact that he's a big person that's been shrunk down. Which is, like I said, if you look at that, the third one takes a lot of cues from that. I want to say my good from this one was I love, and this probably because I'm a dad, and I have a daughter. I loved his relationship with Cassie so much.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
the wholesomest thing. Remember, he's a ex-con and he's trying to do good, and as his ex-wife says, she thinks you are the biggest hero in the world. And
Mhm.
seeing that little relationship was so beautiful. I mean, again, as a dad to a daughter, I have a personal affinity for it, but I can't see how you can't just love that. She loves her dad. She thinks he's the best thing in the world, and he's trying his
Mhm.
hardest not to disappoint her, and it's wonderful.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes to Luis and his storytelling. Also, I love the was it David Dalsmalchin's character and Ti's character. I love them as a
Oh
trio.
yes.
They're so
Mhm.
good. They are such a good just kind of they're the Warriors 3 for Ant-Man. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? They're the Warriors 3 for Ant-Man. Just so
Mhm.
great addition. And also I did like that Darren Cross as a bad guy is like a more effective Justin Hammer. He's like if
Mm.
Justin Hammer were more like Tony Stark, and I really enjoyed him as it's kind of a Lex Luthor as character.
Mm.
So that's the good. What did you think was bad about this movie?
I rewatched this movie. I'm a big fan of this movie, so I honestly don't have any bad about this film, but I understood what it was. And I think that's what it was. I understood what it was, and I think they did a good job just kind of executing it. It's a heist film. They kept it small, they kept it contained.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't expecting anything really big. It's freaking Ant-Man. But if I had to get nitpicky, I would have liked a little bit more fight scenes
Okay.
between Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket. I really did like that. When they were fighting, I wanted more of that. But because it was near the end of the film, it was a heist
Mm-hmm.
film, the majority of it, that part was I just wanted more. That's me being real nitpicky. So if there was something that I felt was bad, I would have liked more of Yellow Jacket in
Okay,
the Ant-Man.
that's fair. You're right. They save him for like the last bad
Mhm.
guy, so we don't really get a ton of
Yeah,
him. But what we
yeah,
do is gets pretty good. I'm
yeah.
my bad. The thing that I find is bad about this, and it's really kind of jarring when you go back to this. This is the I think where the jokiness of the MCU maybe jumps the shark. Maybe jumps the shark.
Mm,
This is the Fonz jumping over a shark. This might be it. A lot of people complain about the jokiness of the MCU, like to its detriment after this movie, and I think this is where it starts because there was a genuinely emotional moment where two actors are just really having a good, their characters are having a heart to heart, and that of course is Hank just saying, "Look, I was wrong, and I'm sorry," to Hope, and
mhm.
she tears up, and they have a breakthrough, only to be fucked up by Scott saying, "Wow, this is amazing." I'm just like, he's like, I ruined the movie. He lampshades the fact that he fucked up a perfectly good
Mhm.
moment with his jokey
Yeah.
bullshit, and I really noticed it. Like I love that a lot of the humor in this, but I'm just like, you really undercut some of the moments with this
Mm,
jokiness, and this may be where we can pinpoint where they really started leaning a little bit too much into it, sometimes inappropriately in later movies. Um,
mm.
that would be my bad.
I
Um,
can see that. I can see that because that was the first real deep, heartfelt moment,
yeah,
and it gets interrupted by a joke that
ex-
wasn't really necessary. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So
Mhm.
finally, the weird, and this is considering this a movie where people are shrinking down to the size of like ants. Uh, what was weird about this movie to you?
I mean, to me, that was the weird because that was my first time. Okay, the first time he shrinks down, to me, the whole thing is just weird. Seeing Michael Pena about to take a
Hmm.
shit on the toilet and the water coming in the tub and him running and then him falling through all the cracks in the building, get down to the club, people dancing on the floor.
Hmm.
Like all of that is just so weird but exciting to me. So look, the film itself is a weird film because it's Ant-Man. So everything about it is going to be weird, especially from the concept of that tiny space. And just the fact that you can get into a suit, press a button, you shrink down, and then your strength becomes 100 times more the smaller
Right.
you get. All of it's weird, but
Yeah.
I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm pretty close to what you're saying. I think the weird shit about this movie was it's really inconsistent what his powers are, and by that I mean it's weird that as he gets smaller, he's all his mass, so he can still jump super high and beat the shit out of people. All right, cool, I can buy that. But the idea here is that he retains all of his mass, so that's why he's so effective, right? Well,
Hmm.
if that's true, how can a ant fly him around?
Oh God, you're poaching holes.
I'm just saying. I'm like, okay, if that's true, why did Thomas the Tank Engine, when it got blown up to full size, not just like why did it do so much damage like to
That
the
is.
house? It acted like so
Oh,
they never
God.
really treated the size changing consistently. And I kept being like, that's weird. Like that, like y'all keep it's just conveniently doing what you want when you want it to do it. But
Yeah.
like we don't consider the fact that
Hmm.
Ant-Man shouldn't be super powered. Like if he's like and still be able to fly on the back of it. And that ant should be crushed. Like
Yeah.
in fact, if you want to really be serious about it, and I'm being that nerd, I'm being the Neil deGrasse Tyson right here. If you really want to be serious, he should be leaving pockmarks in the ground because all of his mass is
Mm.
concentrated into a very small space. He's,
You're right.
but whatever.
Damn it, Mo. Damn it, Mo. You're ruining it for me.
Yeah, I
But you
told you. I
make
told you
perfect
I'm
sense.
the Neil deGrasse Tysoning this shit.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it makes perfect sense. You are so right.
I'm
Damn.
that what
Damn.
you're like, damn it, shut up, Mo.
Stop it. Now every time I look at that movie, I'm like, see, he should be falling through the ground right there. That Thomas the Train should have floated in the air when it blew up. Like, oh man, damn it.
How does this to you in your mind? How does this fit into the MCU? How does this movie fit into the MCU?
Well, I think it fits perfectly into the MCU. First off, it's a heist movie, which I love, which
Mm,
I think fits perfectly right there. And it's right before Captain America Civil War. And they reference the Avengers in this, and they reference Sokovia, which is great. I also love the fight scene between Falcon and Ant-Man, and how they even come back to that
mhm.
in Civil War. Of course, I'm going to spoilers, but near the end credits, they reference a scene in Civil War that we haven't even seen yet. I think it fits so much into the MCU because Ant-Man gives us the idea of the subatomic going into the quantum realm, which is a vital part on how the remaining heroes go back to get the
Mhm.
Infinity Stones in Endgame. If we don't have Ant-Man, we don't get none of this stuff in the Infinity War and
Right.
Endgame. So that's why Ant-Man, it's a small film, but a huge part of the Infinity Saga.
Right. It's like this. It's like it can change its size or something. I don't know. Uh, and you do get the impression that they are setting up. Like you, in retrospect, you're like, oh, the breadcrumbs were all leading to that. To that
All in
end
it.
game. Very interesting to see. Yeah, I think the thing about this movie, it's a small scale adventure with huge implications, like as you mentioned, but also because it's expanding the Avengers roster, which, as you know from the comics, is something that's happening all the time. Also it's bringing into the Avengers roster an Avenger that should have been there from the beginning, but obviously, they didn't bring him in because it's Ant-Man. Like, how excited can
Mhm.
you get for Ant-Man, right?
I know.
But they make him interesting, and they bring an old school Avenger name at least into the fold, or at least make it possible for him to come into the fold. Introduces the quantum realm, which is hugely important for Endgame, but also would have been important for later on down the line with Kang Dynasty. But stuff happened. Um,
Yeah.
and it also showed that there were superheroes, or at least superhero type people, that were operating prior to Tony Stark becoming Iron Man. So really kind of expanding the universe in a way that we hadn't seen before. Well, what can you tell me about the first time that you watched this?
This was the first movie that I actually did watch in the theaters.
Oh, okay.
At I know I'm so bad, but I was at a time where, I was waiting for things to come out on DVD, but this was one of the first films that I actually did watch in the theater because the Marvel machine was rolling at this time. And I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? It's freaking Ant-Man. But something about that trailer was like, I'm going to go check this out in the movie theaters.
Hmm.
And I'm glad I did because this film gave us exactly what it needed. And I was very curious how they were going to do it in the big screen. And I think they knocked it out of the park. They didn't do anything big scale. It's an Ant-Man film, so it's a small scale. But they kept the movie in the pocket and it worked for me.
Yeah. I didn't see this in theater. Surprise.
What?
I wasn't really going to the movie theaters at that time. Not really, even for Marvel stuff. I caught this on DVD.
But
Yeah.
Redbox?
Uh yeah. I think I watched this with like some friends or something like that. Somebody rented it.
Yeah.
We watched it. Um and I loved it. Here's the thing. I love heist movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was a heist movie. This was an Ocean's 11 with superpowers. You had me at Ocean's 11. I didn't have to hear any, but you said superpowers. Oh, cool. I'm with it. And I was really surprised. Like, the thing was, I wasn't like, oh my God, this is peak. That's not how I felt
Mm-hmm.
about it. But I was like, this is a great little movie that, it's
Mm-hmm.
not, the world's not about to end. This guy is just a cool dude that's trying to do the best thing he can, and also he can get small. So I
Yeah.
thought it was really dope. and everybody I watched it with liked it. So I'm not
Hmm.
sure how the general, and I think the general audience seemed to be like, this is cool. Which
Yeah,
which
I
by
think
the
so.
way, I also want to give props to the people who made this. Which, by the way, this wasn't an easy process. As you saw, they had
Hmm.
two directors and everything
Hmm. I heard
for
about that.
being happy with telling a good story that didn't have to you know be a huge mega blockbuster. You can, like, that's one thing I think is missing from the MCU is the ability to just hit a single or a double or sometimes a triple and just be
I
happy.
agree.
Hey, we're moving the story forward. People know who these characters are. We don't have
Hmm.
to make a million. We don't have to make $1 billion. We can make. I think it's make like 600 mil. Dope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's just it's moving the story forward. Everything doesn't have to be a mega blockbuster.
Hell of analogy, Mo. That was a great analogy. That's absolutely, and I think Marvel has gotten into that idea when everything needs to be a home run,
Yeah,
and that's where they dropped the ball. They're just swinging too hard for the fences and they're striking out. Get some base hits, man. Let's move this plot forward.
yeah.
So yeah,
Well, that it would help if they would stop spending so much damn money on these these things. And actually, I think this had 100.
true.
I think this was 130 million dollars. So that's a
Mm,
very reasonable for
yeah,
for $600 million return. That's a great return on 120
yeah.
mil. What did you think was your standout scene? I like say scenes, so like your favorite one, but also maybe a runner up. What did you think about these?
It was two. My favorite scene is the battle between Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man. I just love that, especially in particular when they're fighting on Thomas the Train in the train set.
Hmm.
I love that whole thing because it just so happened and the reason why I love that is because at the time my son was really into Thomas the Train. He had a train set. So when I was seeing that, I just was like, this shit is so funny. This shit is so good. And then that moment when Yellow Jacket is about to get hit by Thomas the Train and he freaks, I was like, ah. And then it pulls out and you just hear this little thing go and it just falls over. I laughed so hard at that part. Then my next scene, that damn Michael Pena, I love, man. Look, is the unsung hero in this movie. When he explains that end scene about how he knew Ant-Man, oh my, that's the best part in this
Oh man.
movie. And it's a crime that they didn't get him and continue on with Michael Pena. Oh, but I love that. Those are my two best scenes.
You know what? I'm gonna first of all, I'm gonna give my runner up, which is the very first time that Scott, shrinks down.
Mm,
Because to me, that is the scene that explains everything about what's been going. Like it explains the movie, it explains what you're gonna see later on, and it gets you in the mind of like the difference between being big and being small. And
mhm,
also, I'm not gonna lie, it made me think of this video game I used to play back in the '90s called Micro Machines, which I don't know if you ever played that. It was a
mm,
racing game based, and
yes.
yeah, so it made me think of that in Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and Honey I Shrunk the Kids has to have been one of the inspirations when they were designing this scene. But that
Mhm,
first time,
mm,
and just how intricate and kind of thrilling it was, and the way Paul Rudd, a lot of it's obviously CG, but the way he sort of emoted his way through just how crazy that was, beautiful. I love that. Love that scene so much. But you're right. That final fight, the long, and it's a very long sequence where Yellow Jacket and Ant Man are fighting
mm,
in Cassie's bedroom is
yeah.
pretty damn awesome. Like it's the way they're just contrasting this big and this what you're seeing as you're
Mhm,
big versus what you're seeing when you're small, and the
yes.
way just Scott just kind of he sticks it out and he makes his way through there and by the way, Darren Cross is really smart, but he outsmarts the man, right?
Mhm,
And then it leads into that whole thing with the going subatomic. Very
subatomic.
very
Mhm.
very beautiful. I really love that whole sequence. It was great, to me, the best scene in the whole movie. what was your standout performance or like favorite performance, but maybe a runner up also?
Man, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Michael Pena is the unsung hero of this movie. His comedic timing right out of the gate is just so good. The way he delivers his lines, his comedic timing is just fantastic. But honestly, I'm a huge fan of Michael Pena in this movie because I think he brings that levity that it needs. But this movie rests on Paul Rudd.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Rudd is the reason why this is so good. His performance being the lead and putting this movie on his back is why the movie worked and is why it's as good as it was. And they knocked it out of the park. It's because of Paul Rudd and Michael Pena.
So
I'm going to keep saying Michael Pena, yo.
I have to concur. So here's what it was between Corey Stoll and Paul Rudd, because
Right.
you have to admit, as Darren Cross, he's really good. Like he's really Corey Stoll is really, really good. And I enjoyed his just like amoral, evil bullshit so much. He's just such a good, which is funny because he's such a good foil for Scott Lang, who is a criminal, but he is more Robin Hood than anything else. Like literally, he's Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And Corey Stoll is just he's more an Elon, if Elon were actually smart, you know. But he like because he absolutely would sell the worst, you know, most destructive technology to Nazis. So like, I mean, why? If you got the money, sure. But while as much as I liked him in that Lex Luthor-ish role, Paul Rudd has to sell Scott Lang as this lovable, you know, kind of screw up that's trying to get it together. And also, he's actually a hero, the hero that his daughter thinks he is. And he has to sell that. He has to sell his relationship to Cassie. He has to sell that, you know, he's trying to make it work, you know, with his ex-wife and her, you know, cop boyfriend. He's got to make it work that he is going to be mentored by the, you know, the great Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, but also that he can be he can be somebody that a Hope Van Dyne would fall for. And he's doing it all. He's Paul Rudding it up. He just is. He just Paul Rudding it up, and I enjoyed it.
That's a good way to put it.
That said, Michael Pena steals every fucking scene he's in, and he really anytime he's in a scene, he's just gonna take it over. Even if Paul Rudd is Paul Rudding, he's gonna take it over because the writing for his character is just so good, and he he really leans into it in a way that I think could lean stereotypical, but because Michael Pena is just that good, he doesn't let it be a stereotype, and he lets Luis really be and breathe as his own character. And everyone, if you don't like Michael Pena, we can't be friends. Like if you don't like Luis the character, we can't be friends. It's just
Luis is so good in the movie. That's why I was so upset when he wasn't in Quantumania. I was like, oh my god.
That's why it didn't. That's why it flopped, because no Luis.
That's right. They needed Luis. They needed him.
Facts. We're gonna take a quick break here. We gotta talk about that Stan Lee watch. My man, of course, always shows up in the MCU movies, all the Marvel movies, and in this one, we got our man up there doing justice, shall we say, to the words of a great storyteller. That is, of course, Luis, talking about how he got to eventually hear about Falcon looking for Scott Lang. And he's a bartender in that. Look, hearing Michael Pena's voice with Stan Lee's mouth. Beautiful. I loved it.
Yes. Chef kiss, man. It was gold. It was gold.
Was it a Marvel ending? Was this a Marvel ending?
Hmm.
What did you think?
Not, I didn't think so. Not like your typical Marvel ending with the big thing in the sky and everybody's got to come fight it and all this hoopla going on. I didn't think it was, because it's a heist film. It was small, contained. It was just
Hmm.
about getting the well, I can't remember what it was, but it was a heist film of getting that thing. I can't remember.
It
Got a
was
brain
getting
fart.
the Yellow Jacket suit. That's what they were trying to
Correct. It was
steal.
getting the yellow jacket suit. So that's just what it was. Except it was really simple. And I love that. It was contained. It wasn't all that. It was really simple. I mean, honestly, I think sometimes Marvel can get a little too much into trying to make it the big ending where they can lose the film. And I really appreciate the directors. Whoever was writing this was like, no, let's keep this, low. And it worked. It worked for me.
Yeah, and I would say I agree with you. It's not a big pew pew, and there's a lot of CG. There has to be because there's a lot of shrinking and small stuff and
Hmm.
everything. But this is more like the phase one endings where it's two people. It's a one
Two
on
people.
one. It's mano a mano, right?
Yeah.
And they are they're duking it out and trying to resolve whatever this is between them. And I like that. It's more personal. The world's not at stake. There's not like a whole lot of weird looking, hard to understand CG. You knew exactly what was going on. It's two people. So
Hmm.
it's not a Marvel ending the way you would think, not the negative way, but it definitely is that phase one, and I appreciate that a lot. It really, as we said, that was a favorite scene of the movie. So yeah, definitely a good ending.
Hmm.
So
I
of
agree.
course, before we get to the end of this, we got to talk about that credit scene.
Mm.
And to be fair to this one, I'm going to also include because there's a mid credit scene, there's a post credit scene, but there is a stinger before the credits roll. You mentioned it earlier, but I think it's worth talking about. Michael Pena, aka as Luis, telling his
Hmm.
story about how Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson is looking for Scott Lang. And it was
Hmm.
very long and drawn out. We saw Stanley in it and everything. And eventually for Scott to be like, so you're saying Falcon is looking for me, basically.
Yes. And Michael Pena's like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yes.
what I said. Yes. So there's the pre-credit scene. We'll call it a pre-credit scene. Then the mid-credit scene, which I think does what a credit scene is supposed to, which is promise you about something that's going to happen for this movie's characters
Hmm.
upcoming, right? And in this one, we see Hank Pym say, "It's about time that you get your own suit," and he gifts Hope her mom's experimental suit for
Hmm.
ta-da the Wasp. Which, if you
Hmm.
know the comics, you can't have Ant-Man without the Wasp.
There you go.
Uh, I thought that was, and it made sense to me because they had that breakthrough earlier on, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is she was chafing. She was like, "Why don't you just give me the damn suit? I'll kick ass in this thing." And him being overprotective to the point, to a fault,
Hmm.
in fact. Actually, I was just like, "Why are you doing this to Hope?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, there's like bad side effects, and you just want to offer up Scott as a
Hmm.
sacrifice."
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Scott's collateral damage.
Basically, he understood it. At least he's like, "Hey, he loves you.
Yeah.
He's not. He don't want to
Hmm.
sacrifice you."
Yeah.
What'd you think
Yeah.
about that scene?
I love that. Those that whole Michael Pena thing. I just love that. I can watch that like over and over again because it's just funny having everybody kind of talking Michael Pena's voice or Louise's voice, and whoever thought of that, kudos to them, man. Kudos to them. Only for it to just end with Paul Rudd saying, "So my Falcon's looking for him," and Michael Pena's like,
Yeah.
"Yes." It was like a 10-minute scene. Fantastic. And I think it was great with Hope, them giving us that. Like, yeah, Hope now is going to be the Wasp. Because look, it's like Batman and Robin. You can't have Batman without introducing Robin. You can't have Ant-Man without introducing the Wasp. And I'm glad they did that because Hope was ready to go. So
Hmm.
give this girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then we finally have the post credits, which was look, we had seen this before. They did it again. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
we could film a post credit scene, or we could just take a clip from the next movie that's definitely coming out, which, as we know, is going to be Captain America: Civil War. So they gave us a little clip from the next movie, which pretty much explains that Falcon is in fact looking for Scott Lang, and he's like, "Oh, I may know a guy that can be on our side." What I just want to say is, did you maybe consider looking into his background? Like the man's got a record. Like, y'all, okay, you know what? Fine, just okay. It was cool.
Well, all these superheroes are tainted, so I guess he's like, it's whatever.
He's like, well, what's one more law you're gonna break? I'm like, as we
they were on
see,
the run at that time.
I'm sure it won't work out bad for you at all.
He's just bringing Scott in like, hey, I got something for you. It's gonna be really bad.
I mean, you got a record anyway. You're pretty used to breaking the law, right?
Right.
With all that being said, we've covered all of those things. Now we got to rate this bad boy. And of course, as usual on the Infinity Rewatch podcast, we are going to rate it out of Infinity Stones 1 through 6. So, Corey, is Thanos still looking for that first stone, or is he ready to wipe out everybody except Scott Lang, who's stuck in the quantum realm? What do you think?
Well, with this film, out of 6 Infinity Stones, I give it 4. I give it 4 Infinity Stones because there are certain films that I think are 6, and I think there are some that are 5 that are better than this. But it's a solid movie that's important to the Infinity Saga, so it gets the 4 Infinity Stones. Yeah, Soul Stone, Other Stone, and Time Stone, and another stone, Power Stone. It gets those, but Thanos doesn't get to fit them all on this time.
Yeah. Well, I am going to agree with you on this. He is at he's out at nowhere. He's taking all the shit from the Collector, and he's just waiting for Gamora to show up.
Right.
So 4 out of 6. You're exact. This is, like I said, this is like a solid double, maybe even a triple. Doesn't have it didn't blow everyone away, and like I don't think the Ant-Man films ever did, but it's an enjoyable, fun little ride. And if you just really want to get in there and have a fun little superhero adventure, see some fun CG, it's got heart, it's got real charisma. Paul Rudd, look, if you like Paul Rudd's brand of acting or humor or whatever, this is for you, And probably what really gets it from 3.5 to 4, it really literally is just Luis. Luis is a whole 0.5 he's like half of an Infinity Stone in my book.
Hell yeah.
So I really loved it. I think it's a great movie. So with all that said, what did you guys think about this movie? What did you think about what we had to say? Do you agree, disagree? Just want to say something nice. You know what to do. Get down there to the comment section and leave your thoughts. And of course, you can always hit me up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com. blurred_force1 on Instagram and Threads, and it's super_not_funny show on TikTok. And while you are doing that, do me a favor, get down there, hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. All of that good stuff helps to grow this channel, helps more people to see this podcast and all of the other content that we make. And of course, I couldn't do this by myself. The Infinity Rewatch podcast needed the expert opinion of Corey, my good friend Corey. So Corey, where can they reach you on social media and on your channel?
Yes, you guys can reach me on the interwebs at CoreyRoy_ on TikTok and Instagram, and you can check out my channel, the Geek Spot TV. Don't have a lot going on there right now, but I will eventually. But until then, I'm here. So thank you, Mo, for having me once again.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. And thank you all for joining us once again on the Infinity Rewatch podcast. We have reached the end of phase 2 of the MCU. It's been quite a ride. And of course, we have the double size phase 3 coming forward. And so you guys look forward to all of that. Captain America Civil War will be the next one. in line. So until then, I have been Mo, your comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by my good friend Corey. And we'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.